Hey boys and girls, this is Mr. Harry from Harry Kindergarten. I am in the top of my Fuji apple tree that used to be itty bitty small and now is gigantic. There's my daughter picking some apples.
Yep. Hi.
Let me take you back to the year 2015. My good friend Jeff planted 2 small apple trees in my backyard. At that time, my children Justice and Paxton were super little. Look how much they've grown up. 5 years has gone by in a flash, and just as my kids have grown, so have my apple trees. Look at the great size of our Fuji apple tree. It certainly towers high over my children, and even hangs over our fence now. It's both taller and fuller each year. And that's not all. Don't forget my tiny Golden Delicious tree, even it's starting to get big. I've had apples on my mind recently because my kindergarten class has been graphing the results of lots of different apple taste tests. My students tasted Red Delicious apples, Golden Delicious apples, and Granny Smith apples. Can you tell from our pictograph which color was our favorite this year? Yup, the red ones. Our class also tried apple juice and apple cider. Look at our bar graph. Apple cider was this year's favorite by only 1 vote. Close. In the spring of 2020, our family, community, and world was hit with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we ended up spending a lot of time playing outside in our yard. I wanted to show you a clip of our yard from back in March. Check out these blooming pictures from our spring quarantine. Those aren't apples, are they? You're looking at beautifully blooming apple blossoms or flowers. Remember that each one of these blossoms has the potential to become a brand new apple, if it can be pollinated properly. I did see lots of buzzing bees and other insects flying around from tree to tree in the springtime, giving us the chance to turn flowers into fruit. Now it's fall of 2020, harvest time, and we've been grabbing, twisting, and picking off apples from our backyard apple trees. What could we make with our family apples this year? After picking apples together, my wife, Mrs. Harry, cut up our red Fuji apples and added them to a mixture of flour, sugar, milk, cinnamon, and even apple sauce to make a delicious dessert. Can you guess what it will become? Apple donuts, and let me tell you, they were delicious. The perfect treat for an autumn sweet snack. This year, I was wondering if any of my family members or friends from the community had apple trees like us, and were any of them doing anything special with this tasty fruit? Turns out that my friends Kathleen and Wes were up to some apple action just a few towns away. They traveled with their daughter Paige to Wes's parents' house, where they had apple trees in their backyard. Paige was so eager to pick apples from their real apple trees. Today they were picking apples that they were transporting to a cider mill, a place where they could make apples into fresh apple cider. Whoa! Paige needs a ladder to get up that high. She better be careful. And look at Wes, her dad. Like a superhero scaling skyscrapers, he climbs right into the branches of the trees to pick the best apples he can find. They've got to be careful not to bruise any apples as they pick them and place them into their large buckets. From the buckets, it's right into their pickup truck. Oh my goodness, did you see how many apples were in that truck? It's going to take a lot of apples to make fresh cider. It takes approximately 40 apples to make 1 gallon of apple cider. After picking the apples and driving them to another town, it's time to see a real-life cider mill. First, their family dumps the apples from the outside of the building to the inside. The apples are rinsed and washed as they move on a conveyor belt. Apples are crushed and pumped through a hose onto a tray lined with cloth. The cloth is folded over the apple mush or mash or whatever you want to call it. More layers of apple mush are stacked on top. Then the trays are rolled under the press. The cider press pushes down on the trays of apple mush and cider drains out of the cloth. The The cloth acts like a strainer and keeps the apple pieces inside. The cider is then pumped through another hose where you can fill your bottles or jugs with real cider. Wow, look at all those gigantic containers. They must have picked way more than 40 apples. I'm so thankful for the generosity of Kathleen and Wes, who not only let me see how apple cider is made, but also give my family some cider for our refrigerator. Thanks, guys. This gets me to thinking, did you ever wonder what the difference is between apple cider and apple juice? Apple cider is made when apple mash or mush is pressed, like in the process you just watched. Pure, simple, and yummy liquid straight from the apples. Cider doesn't have anything added to it and isn't modified or changed in any way. Cider is also recognized by its brownish color, thickness, and strong taste. So what about apple juice? Apple juice usually has an orangish or tan color and is typically thinner than apple cider. After being pressed, apple juice is usually filtered in a factory and undergoes a process called pasteurization, which helps it stay on the shelf a lot longer in stores or homes. Outstanding! Well, we've got a little bit of fall left, and we better pick the rest of those ripe apples. We hope you've enjoyed this year's exploration of apples. Until next time!